Near the small Serbian town of Basenka Gradiška, in the village of Gašnica, in December 1925, an ordinary girl named Lepa Svetozara Radic was born into a peasant family. Like all children, Lepa grew up, studied at the Gradiška school, and would probably have eventually become a village teacher or a nurse, or maybe she would have gone to Belgrade to study at the university. However, in 1940, the war reached the homes of the Balkans Peninsula's inhabitants as German and Italian forces invaded Yugoslavia. The invaders were assisted by groups of Croatian separatists known as the Ustaša, led by Ante Pavelić, who established a puppet Croatian pseudo-state under German control. And it was the Ustaša who played their evil role in the fate of the Serbian girl Lepa Radic. Croatian fascists were pursuing objectives in the Balkans not in the interest of the Croatian people, but in the interest of the Hitler's Reich. When the war began, Lepa was only 15 years old. All the men in her family joined the partisans, including her father, uncles and cousins. In December 1941, Lepa, along with her mother, grandmother and other relatives, was captured by Croatian Ustaša, collaborators of the Nazis. They spent 20 days in a Croatian prison, but this time they were released with the partisans. After the prison, Lepa and her sister Dara joined the partisans. They joined the Grabova company of the 2nd Krajina partisan detachment. Due to their age, they were sent to work at a partisan hospital. Lepa ended up being the youngest nurse on the staff. She handled her responsibilities with great care and diligence. The wounded soldiers loved the young and caring girl and treated her like a daughter or younger sister. While working at the hospital, Lepa also took short-term party courses and became a member of the Yugoslav Communist Party. She became the youngest communist in the squad. The leadership noticed a girl who was sociable and communicative and entrusted Lepa with the task of carrying out political agitation among the partisans, youth and the local population. However, in June 1942, the German Ustaša troops undertook a series of offensive and punitive operations against the Yugoslav partisans. The partisans of the Kozari district had to break out of encirclement. Lepa Radic took an active part in the evacuation of the local population subjected to repression by fascist punitive forces. She assisted in coordinating the evacuation of people, moving livestock, and transporting food supplies to prevent them from being captured by the enemy. Lepa Svetozara Radic's father died in these battles. Her younger brother Milan disappeared. It was later discovered that the boy had been sent to the Jasenovac concentration camp, where he was killed by the Ustašas in 1945. Lepa grew up quickly. However, the hardships that befell her did not break the girl. On the contrary, they strengthened her character and will to defeat the fascists. Meanwhile, she stayed just as kind and hospitable as before, always willing to lend a hand to others. Only the crease on her forehead from the experienced losses indicated that she was no longer the naive girl who had joined the partisan detachment less than a year ago. In the Kozar area, the unit managed to break out of the German-Croatian encirclement and with part of civilian population moved to the Pogremča area. Here, Radic actively continued her agitational and educational work. She walked around the surrounding villages, distributed leaflets to people, introduced them to the state of affairs at the fronts, and at the same time collected information of interest to the partisan headquarters. Many local residents knew Lepa by sight and were happy to meet her. The partisan headquarters and the leadership of the local territorial department of the Communist Party entrusted Lepa to lead the youth organization of the detachment. Radic conducted active explanatory work among rural youth who came to the detachment. She explained the goals and objectives of the party, the importance of partisan movement. The training courses were not in vain. Lepa quickly absorbed knowledge, grasped everything on the fly, and gladly shared information with people. With her active participation, local branches of the anti-fascist youth organizations of Yugoslavia and the Anti-Fascist Women's Front were created. Captivity. At the end of January 1943, the German Ustaša punitive battalions of the military police, with the involvement of SS troops, Wehrmacht formation and Croatian military units, began another operation against the partisans, codenamed Vice 1. Lepa Radic was appointed a member of the headquarters for organizing the evacuation of the population, livestock and food in the area of Mount Grmek. She was responsible for the directions of the villages of Horny and Dani Petrovici and the village of Srednji Dubovik. The first stage of the evacuation was successful and Lepa's assistants and people left for the zone controlled by the partisans. She came back for the second group of refugees. The detachment consisted mainly of women, elderly people, and children, numbering approximately 150 people. The second detachment of refugees, led by Lepa, moved from the area of Bosanska Kupa towards Mount Grumek. However, the Battalion 369 of the German Infantry Division, consisting of Croatian Ustashis, got off the path of Lepa's detachment and began to surround it. Of the entire squad, only Lepa had a weapon. The women suggested that the girl throw away the rifle and change into ordinary women's dress, but Lepa refused. Having ordered the detachment to leave towards the forest along the path in small groups, the brave girl took up defensive positions. Radic fired back to the last bullet. Only when the ammunition ran out were the enemies able to capture her. The Ustasha brutally beat the girl. Some of the refugees were unable to escape. They were also captured by punitive forces and together with Radic were taken to the city of Bosanska Kupa, where they were thrown indiscriminately into prison. At the very first interrogation, the girl asked the SS men and Croatian investigators to release the people, since they were ordinary civilians and were not guilty of anything. She alone was a partisan. Even under the threat of death and torture, Lepa thought, first of all, about other people. The Nazis offered Radic life in reward if she told where the partisans were, named her comrades, and helped the Germans and Croatian Ustashis. The proud girl only smiled contemptuously in response to the executioners. Lepa suffered numerous severe beatings, had her arms twisted, deprived of sleep, drenched with cold water at night, and repeatedly faced physical abuse. But the 17-year-old girl turned out to be more resilient than many men in her place. In early February, Lepa Radic was sentenced to death by a fascist court. Among the German soldiers, there were many local Volksdeutsche, Germans born in Yugoslavia. They spoke Serbian well. Some of them looked with respect at the brave, persistent girl. Yugoslav German approached Lepa and persuaded her to hand over her comrades. "After all, you're still very young," they said. "Why should you die because of grown men?" The brave girl answered them, "I will not betray my people, neither men nor women nor children. My comrades will reveal themselves after defeating villains like you." On February 11, 1943, Lepa was brought to execution in an open truck. The Nazis carried out the execution in the area of the Bosanska Kupa railway station, not far from the tunnel where the notorious acacia grew on a hillock, which the Nazis turned into a gallows. Lepa was without shoes, wearing only socks, trousers, and a sweater. Her hands were pulled back with a telephone cable. She calmly climbed onto the ammunition box. While the soldier was fiddling with the noose, the girl addressed the assembled crowd of people with the words, "Long live the Communist Party and the partisans. People, fight for your freedom. Don't give in to the villains. Let them kill me, but there are those who will avenge me. They will soon..." At that moment, the executioner knocked the box out from under Lepa's feet, and the girl hung on a tree. People quietly observed the atrocities committed by the occupiers and their accomplices. And within this desperate silence lay the people's protest against the fascist invaders. The Nazis for some time did not allow the girl to be removed from the gallows, so that local residents could not bury her, and also for the purpose of intimidation to others. Then it dawned on them that a dead Lepa was no less dangerous than a living one. People came to the place of execution every day. Then the Ustasha took the girl from the tree. It is unknown where the Nazis distributed the body. Most likely they burned and buried the remains along with other bodies of killed partisans and peaceful victims of the rapist occupiers. After the war, Lepa Svetozara Radic was awarded the title of People's Hero of Yugoslavia posthumously.